Hey, everybody. Welcome back. So excited. Good episode today. I'm Sandy Gulliver. I am the host of Just Us Along here with my co-host, Daryl Anisfeld and Sandra Baskin. And
Howdy.
today we have a most special guest. If you've ever been to the Green Room Acting Studio, you know who he is. If you've ever been to O'Connor Casting, you know who he is. He's David Murphy.
Hello, all.
Hi, David.
So, David, you
Mhm.
are the co-owner of the Green Room Acting
Ye-
Studio, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And how is it that you can teach acting? Because it occurs to me, I really don't know your background. Were you an actor?
Actor first, went to school for that and oral interpretation and directing. From there, I went to work with improv, did some improvisational shows. So there was a show, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. I was casted as the Hunchback, and it was based on the scenario. So it was the book done on stage, of the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but we had to improvise the scenes. After doing that, I ended up getting hired with the Players Workshop of Second City. And I taught improv for a long time. And, I keep kind of going back and forth, acting and improv and so on, and then fell into, casting with O'Connor Casting, and then the Green Room. That's it in a nutshell, basically.
Okay, that's it. Goodbye.
Yeah,
Right.
that was your time, wasn't it? I'm old.
Well, I know that you are very funny, and that improv background explains a lot, because I took the 5 levels at the Green Room Studio, and you had us just in tears laughing all the time. It really made the classes. You look forward to them. You're not intimidated by them, and that humor played a big part of it.
Yeah, I try to be that even when I'm directing or casting or whatever, because, the bottom line is I get the importance of what this is and how much people want it. But I think if we take it too seriously, we damage our own psyche. In the end, I like to go, yeah. And in the end of all things, I'm saying I like Coke. So who the heck cares? Right?
Yep.
It shouldn't matter that much. So there should be a level, a lightness to it.
So,
Yeah, who wants to see that anyway?
see what, Daryl, exactly?
Grumps on stage.
Oh, Grumps. Well, that's what it's called for.
Or terribly intense. Yeah.
So you're also a session director at O'Connor Casting.
That I was, yes.
Was?
Was. Not at the
Yeah.
moment.
Not at the moment. Oh, well, so we're going to go back there, and you're not going to be there for us? Because once again, the comfort level is there when we walk in the room, and it's you.
I know. We'll see what the world brings. It's just
That's good enough. Yeah.
the virus did a lot of damage to a lot of things.
Tell us.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. So you all know. So
Here we are, right? Interviewing you on Zoom instead of in person.
Yeah.
right.
Start with that, right?
Well, see, who has some questions for David?
I do.
Okay, Daryl, you go ahead.
When you're doing an audition, what I have found because of this year is that we're no longer in the room. And because we're not in the room, it means that we have to do all this self-critiquing. And I don't care how good you are, it's really hard to critique yourself. And I have missed that terribly. And so from your perspective, what makes an audition stand out to you? What would an actor do to make you different than all the other actors? What makes it so special when you come home with your audition?
Okay, well, there's a little bit of an odd mix here because, in a room special could be considered different than you doing it yourself. You know what I mean? I think number one, the performer, and that's why we started this with having a little levity to it. The performer's got to like what they're doing themselves, not in a, I'm brilliant sort of way, but
Yeah.
but they have to kind of have fun or enjoy what they've done without putting a lot of dang, I didn't say or whatever, that the voices in your head that just kind of mess with you. Get rid of that stuff. So enjoying it themselves is number one, mainly because why would I enjoy something you're not enjoying? I'm watching you not enjoy it. How is that nice for me?
What a great point that is. Holy smokes.
Yeah, you can watch the pain, you know what I mean? But that also goes to, because there's a lot of levels that we can see when we're looking at someone. And we know, there's a level of be prepared. If you're not prepared, why would I appreciate something where somebody doesn't know what the hell they're doing? Excuse my language. But you get what I mean, that are just kind of all over the place or don't know where they're headed with it. But you also don't want to be too practiced, because then it looks like you're just kind of up here saying words, you know what I mean? The eyes have rolled back into the back of your head and you kind of disappeared on me. So there's got to be kind of a in the moment quality to it. So those things I think are necessary. I think people have got to enjoy their auditions. Meaning you're auditioning for a role, but that should not be your point or focus. You should be auditioning because you enjoy auditioning. You know what I mean? Once you start thinking, I really need this job, all of a sudden your mind is not where it should be.
Of course.
Then I guess after all of that kind of stuff is out of the way, it's how someone interprets what it is that they're doing. Meaning, you having your unique sort of approach to the role or your unique sort of approach to the line. And while there's a level of improv to that, I don't want to get too deep because it isn't necessarily about being funny.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Because let's face it, some people's sense of humor, other people really don't like. You know what I mean? And you really have to look at the humor. If you're going to add humor, you have to look at it based on the character, not based necessarily on your humor. It has to fit with the writing. It has to fit with the scene. It has to fit with the character, not you being you making wisecracks. So it isn't necessarily about humor, but it might be how you throw a line. It might be your willingness to add a little. It might be your just how you carry yourself. You know the character enough that I buy you in that role. You know what I mean? If somebody's playing a paralegal, you want to look at what is a paralegal? What is it that they do? You just can't go, they're a paralegal. Great. What are the lines? Okay, I'll just do it. I, as the client, want to look at you and go, yeah, I buy that person as a paralegal. So all of those kind of meld in, Daryl. I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying. And I think you've made some great points. So thank you. I appreciate that. And
what we need from you, David, is tell us or set up a class that we'll take, how exactly to do that. Great advice, but how do we get there?
In terms of, well, I think some of it is logical, Sandra.
Yeah.
Looking at, I know looking at a security guard, for example, character. What most people would interpret a security guard to kind of be like. And part of the reason is you want the quick grab, especially if we're dealing commercially, right? If you're dealing commercially, we don't have a lot of time to watch you work through the depth and the angst of the character until we discover an hour later, oh, it's a security guard. We need a quick grab on that. And sometimes it's just in a mannerism or how you carry yourself or whatever it is. So I think part of that can be logical. In terms of interpreting lines, I think some of that is practice. What I mean is we tend to look at a script and see a line and throw that line how our knee-jerk throw would be.
Mm.
And that doesn't make it a bad throw. It's your gut. It's your gut reaction.
Mm-hmm.
But then I would work that line for a little bit longer and see whatever other ways you have to throw that line.
Good idea.
And the reason is if it's your gut reaction, I'm going to say you're probably pretty much the norm of people. So it's going to be their knee-jerk reaction of how to throw that line as well. So what you're doing is kind of creating, I deliver the line because that's what I felt it should be delivered as. And so did 95% of the people auditioning. But there's probably other ways you could flip that line and it still fits and it still makes sense, which is a little off the beaten path. And especially if you have more than one take, for God's sakes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you say throw the line, now is
Say-
that the same as throwing away a line?
No, when I use throw line as saying the line.
Okay,
But sometimes, sometimes even the line where you want to go, the way that it looks, you feel you want to say, you were supposed to be here. And that's so intense and so important. I might do a take where it's, you were supposed to be here.
yeah,
A little bit of a toss off because it shows still that I'm a little annoyed by it. I'm just not going to blow you grief about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The other is an obvious affront. So
In terms of self-taping, since that's what we're all doing now,
Yep.
What would be some guidelines of things that we need to put in our heads as we watch ourselves? Like, did I believe that I was really that person? Did I believe that I said it without,
right.
judgment or without any kind of
I
nuance?
I think you want to look at it more than one time.
Okay.
And I think you want to isolate what it is you're focusing on with each pass.
Okay.
Most people's initial look at a piece that they've done tends to be based in physical.
Mm-hmm.
How was their hair? What was the clothes that they were wearing? How they did a mannerism or whatever it is. If all you do is watch yourself once, you'll probably go, okay, I really want to hear myself say these lines. And while it's going, you're going, oh, look at that hair. What's going on with that hair? You know what I mean? You're good. And then it'll pass and you won't have really heard it.
Yeah.
So if you go this time through, I'm just looking at my outfit and how it all looks, my hair, so on. That looks great. Next time, maybe look at your mannerisms, how you move. Does it seem natural? Does it seem stilted or stiff somehow? So on. And then go deeper as you go, right? And then in the end, I'd say don't be so critical.
Yeah. Fire.
That's the hardest thing. But, I think what's tough is for you to look at yourself and go, do I believe that?
Mm-hmm.
Because you know who you are. And so you're like, oh, that's phony baloney because I wouldn't do that. Well, yeah, I know. But It's more for that person who really doesn't know you,
Right.
who will buy into what it is. So it's a little bit like a headshot, Daryl, where yes, you want to pick the ones that kind of strike you and look good, but then show a couple to a stranger, and show one to your best friend. You know, you know what I mean? If your best friend goes, "Oh, that's you," then that's a good comment on it.
Yeah, that
You know,
yeah.
if a total stranger goes, "Oh, that strikes me," then they're drawn to it. So there's a positive there. You know, so you don't want to go too deep into beating yourself up over what you just did. But I would probably look at it like, 4 times, something like that, just to, right? And don't knee jerk. Well, most of the time, depending on what the tape is, it isn't more than a minute anyway.
Mhm.
I'm a big one for, how much time are you willing to spend to get a gig that could give you a chunk of change? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And most actors spend 5 minutes. Well, I'm willing to spend 30. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I think
I mean, just like
sometimes
it's,
we go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Carol. Go ahead.
Just like it's hard to watch yourself on screen when you've
Absolutely.
done whatever, and then you watch yourself, and of course you're gonna, just pick yourself apart. So if you had to give a number of how many times you should do it, what would you say?
I would say if you break down, Daryl, what you want to look at and isolate each time. So if I want to look at my outfit or my hair or whatever, that's one time. And you might only watch it for 10 seconds or roll through it to make sure your hair didn't do something weird. You know what I mean? Just kind of roll through it. So it doesn't mean you're really sitting there staring at the dang thing. After that, maybe you want to see, I would look at within each take, did I alter it?
Mhm.
Or does take 1 sound like take 2, which sounds very much like take 3, or however many takes you've got?
Mhm.
And maybe that's really the focus. And I'm not getting much, so I keep things a little bit like, I wouldn't try to go deep on the first take that I look at. You know what I mean? I just kind of break it down.
That makes
So-
sense. Yeah.
So to me, it depends on how many different categories you decide you want to go with.
Okay.
I don't know that watching it 10 times, unless you really like watching yourself, is something that is necessary, but
It makes
Okay.
sense because even on set, I have found over the years that I need at least 3 takes before I really get into the character.
Yep. Oh, yeah. I mean, you guys, you might be used to, when time allows in a room, you could do, with me, you could be doing 12 takes.
Well,
You know?
your advice is always, your notes are always excellent. So we love to do as many as we could that you're suggesting. The problem is there isn't the time, and they want us in and out fairly
And out,
quickly.
yeah.
So
Yeah, that's always the tough is, sometimes, and it's hard to know who wants it.
yeah,
Is it quantity over quality? I always was quality over quantity. So,
sure.
but some clients are like, show me everything, and we only have a day,
Right. Yeah.
which is crazy.
Did you have some other questions jotted down, Daryl or Sandra?
I have another one, but go ahead, Daryl.
No, you
Daryl?
go, Sandra.
Go ahead.
Your
Go.
turn.
Have you ever, or do you teach nonverbal acting?
I have taught segments. I don't teach an entire, I wouldn't teach an entire
Just
8
on that,
weeks
yeah.
just because it would drive me crazy, I think.
Yeah.
I have done classes where probably out of, let's say, 8 weeks, there was a class or 2 that there was no verbal really involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that makes sense. You wouldn't want to do 6 or 8 weeks of just nonverbal. But lately I've come across that a couple times with an audition where the expression and movement has been everything,
Mhm.
which also falls into improv, of course.
Yes.
But
The
yeah,
please.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, please.
No, I was just going to add, but just doing that compared to doing it mixed in with some lines are two different things. So,
Yes. Um, um, if it is movement, let's say, I'm making a cup of coffee.
yeah.
If there is action involved with it, your best approach is to give yourself um, strong beats, which kind of falls into the improv feel. You know what I mean? Having beats.
Yeah.
So walk into the kitchen, grab a glass, pour the coffee, whatever. That is kind of a through line of what that action would be. And then next, let your body kind of remember what you just did, especially if you're doing it if you're taping it yourself, then it's easy because you just can go no and do it
Yeah.
again. If you're doing it in an actual thing, then it's really allow your body to remember what it just went through, and then do it again where certain things are going to be the same, obviously, but this time I might walk into the kitchen, grab the pot, look around for the cup. All right, look at that. Okay, it's dirty. Whatever. You know what I mean? And give myself
Yeah.
just to shift what that physicality is. After that, so that from one take to the next, you actually change your physical. After that, it's do what is natural.
Of course. Yeah.
That's it. So it's not easy, but it's actually easier than I think people give it.
And then drink the coffee.
Yeah, well, that would probably, especially if it's about the coffee.
Okay.
But I found that, and I've noticed it when they do news segments too, whenever somebody is walking as part of a story, they always seem to be obviously walking, like they're really concentrating on their walking.
Yeah. As opposed to just a move.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And that the walking things are kind of rough.
Yeah.
There are auditions where what you do is you have to walk back and forth. And it's them looking at your physical, how you move, so on. And that, yes, people can slam into their heads and almost forget how one leg works after the other. And it's like, just walk. That's all, just walk. If it isn't about the walking itself, what's nice is, especially if you're doing something at home, is slight movement actually on camera shows, almost makes it perceive as a wide area. You get what I mean? So you're actually moving very little. It's just if you make that movement go across like that, it looks like you've moved several feet when you've only moved half a step.
Cool.
Yeah.
Good advice. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, we passed our 20 minutes, so unless
That's the 20?
Oh, the timer went off at 15. It's been a good 5 minutes since then.
See
So
what I meant? Yeah.
what have we left off your list of questions, Daryl?
Not that I wrote them down or anything, but how important is it for what you're going to wear?
Yeah.
I mean, does it
yeah.
really add or subtract or how much effort should you put into what you're wearing?
I'd say I find most clients respond to suggestion of, meaning suggestion of the character. If you're supposed to be in an evening gown and show up in torn shorts, unless you are like a Stuart model, it's not going to help you. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So I would wear something gown-ish.
Yes.
Going from one audition to the callback, if it's dirty, wear something kind of like it. You get what I mean?
Yep.
Mhm.
I think oddly it helps. It number one, I think it helps you, but I also think it helps the client visualize more. You know, I go back to the security guard wearing black slacks and a blue button-down shirt is all you would need.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It looks good enough, you know?
He
So
could leave the
if it's
shield at home.
for a doctor role, would a lab coat be too much?
No, no, I think it's probably one of your strongest investments as a performer is to get a lab coat.
All right, well, good. Have one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that we don't have time to ask you any more questions.
Darn.
Yeah, that really went fast. But I hope that everything goes well with you. And I'm just really happy that you decided to come on our show. I couldn't be more pleased.
No,
And-
thank you.
Yeah, so with that, I'm gonna end the segment and we're all gonna say goodbye. Goodbye. David.
Bye.
Thank you, David.
to
Thank
see
you
you
so
guys.
much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to see you.
Adios, everybody.